Welcome to Study Loop.
So for this question, first question were to indicate whether each of the costs are direct variable costs, direct fixed costs, indirect variable costs, indirect fixed costs, and assuming unit of production of each kind of bread is the cost object. So moving straight to the question, number one. So I'm gonna do it as a table just so it's easy to understand. And I'm going to be having the numbers over here, the particulars over here, the category of the cost over here, and the reasons for the cost over here. So moving on, the first question is the yeast. Now, yeast is a direct variable cost, and this is because it is directly related to the cost of production and it varies within the units of production. Directly related with production costs and varies with production units. Now the second one is flour. Now flour is a direct variable cost too, and this is because it is directly related to the cost of production and it varies with the unit of production. So it's basically the same reason. The third one is the packaging materials, and this is a direct variable cost too, and it's the same reason. The fourth one is the depreciation on oven, and this is an indirect fixed cost. And this is because it is a cost that is not directly related to production and doesn't vary with the unit of production, and doesn't vary with the unit of production. Now the next one is the depreciation on mixing machines. And this is an indirect fixed cost too. And it's also the same reason for this. So moving on, I want to extend the table. So extending the table, number 6 is the rent on factory building. And this is an indirect fixed cost. And it's the same reason. The seventh one is the fire insurance on factory building. And this is an indirect fixed cost. And it's also the same reason. Now, the eighth one is the factory utilities. And this is an indirect variable cost. Variable cost. And the reason for this is it is the cost that is not directly related and doesn't vary with units of production. So it is the same reason. Now, the ninth one is the finishing department hourly laborers. And this is a direct variable cost. And finishing is a direct cost, but it varies in production. It varies with production. And that's why it is a direct variable cost. Now, the tenth one is mixing department manager. And this one is an indirect fixed cost. And this doesn't directly involve in production and doesn't vary with production level. In production and doesn't vary with production level. Now, the 11th one is the material handlers in each department. Now this is an indirect fixed cost and is the same reason as 10. Now the 12th one is custodians in the factory, and this is an indirect fixed cost and it is the same reason. The 13th one is a night guard in factory, and this is an indirect fixed cost and it's the same reason, which is it doesn't directly involve in production and it doesn't vary with production level. The 14th one is the machinist. The machinist is running the mixing machine. This is an indirect fixed cost and it's the same reason. The 15th one is the machine maintenance personnel, and this is an indirect fixed cost and it is the same reason. It doesn't directly involve in production and doesn't vary with production level. The 16th one is the machine supplies, rather maintenance supply for the factory. And this is an indirect variable cost. Indirect variable cost. And it is the cost that is not directly related to the cost of production and doesn't vary with the unit of production. Now, the final one is the cleaning supplies for the factory. And this is an indirect fixed cost. And it doesn't directly involve in production and doesn't vary with production level. Doesn't vary with production level. So this is what it should look like. But however, if the material handlers and machinists are running the machine, the mixing machine, um, They'll be paid on hourly basis and they are indirect variable costs. Now, moving on to the second question. If the cost objects were the mixing department rather than the unit of production of each kind of bread, which preceding costs would now be the direct instead of the indirect costs? So we're going to identify which are considered as the direct costs and not indirect costs when the mixing department is assumed as the correct object. So if you look at it, all the costs that are directly associated with the mixing department are treated as direct costs, and the costs that are associated with the mixing department are the costs are depreciation on mixing machines, and mixing department manager. So these are the costs that are associated with the mixing department. That's the final answer.